Hi friends, in this video we're going to talk about how to manage your Python projects efficiently and easily using this awesome tool called UV. So UV is an awesome Python package and project manager tool written in Rust, and so it's really fast compared to other tools. It's an open source tool written in Rust, and you can see it's really famous because it has around 64k GitHub stars. So how can you use UV to manage your Python projects? Well, UV manages your Python versions, virtual environments, package dependencies automatically for a Python project. So you can do the work of pip and virtual environment in UV itself. And it does this job much more better and easily. Well, how to install this UV tool? Well, if you are on Windows, run this command. And if you are in Linux based environments like Ubuntu, run this command. And if you already have pip installed on your computer, you can just use pipx to install UV. But this method is not recommended. Just use one of these two methods. We are on a Windows machine. Let's try to install UV now. So I'm running the command. So just by running the command, I have installed UV in my machine. Well, how to update UV installed in your machine? So periodically you can run this command UV self upgrade, and that command will update your UV. So I'm going to write UV self update, and UV will be updated. Since we are already in the latest version, it will say you are on the latest version of UV. Now that we have UV installed, let's try to create a sample project and let's try to manage the dependencies, environments, etc. using UV. So along with managing a Python project, you can actually create a Python project very easily using UV. Just create a new folder and initialize a project using UV init, run UV sync to install the dependencies. Let's try to do that and initialize a new project using UV. So let's try to initialize a Python project in an empty folder called UV demo. I'm going to open a command prompt here. Let's try to keep the command prompt on one side and the folder on other side, and let's try to initialize a new project. So I'm going to write UV space init, and it has initialized a project called UV demo. By default, some files are created as a part of the Python project. Let's try to see the files, and let's try to open this folder in VS Code. So I'm going to open this folder in VS Code. Now let's try to see what files are created by initializing a UV project. I've got a readme file where you can write the description about the project, and I've got a file called pyproject.toml file, and it has a metadata about the Python project. It is giving a short description about your project, what is the version of your Python project, what is the name of your Python project, and where is the readme file of your Python project, and what is the Python version you require, and what are the dependencies of your Python project. And there is a sample file called main.py. This is just a Python file you can run, and there is this file called .python version. And the amazing thing about UV is that you don't need to manage the Python version also. Just mention the Python version and UV will download if it's not present in your computer and use that Python version to run your project. And this is the gitignore file which contains which folders or files that should be ignored while pushing your code to Git. Alright, let's open a command prompt here and let's run the second command UV sync. So the UV sync command will create the virtual environments, download the dependencies, and set you up everything to run your project. It reads the pyproject.toml file to create your environment. Alright, we have created a new Python project using UV very easily. Now the first requirement would be managing the packages, right? Suppose I'm using pandas in my Python project. You can install pandas using a command something like UV add pandas. And suppose if I want pandas and requests both in one command, I can just write UV add pandas space request. You can even uninstall your Python package from your project just by writing UV remove command. You can write UV remove requests and it will remove requests from your Python project. Now let's try to add pandas and requests to our Python project. So I'm going to write UV add pandas and space requests. So I'm adding two packages, pandas and requests, to my Python project. Now you can see by default UV actually updates the pyproject.toml file and adds your requirements, and it's showing you the dependencies which are required to actually install these two packages. And one more amazing thing is this uv.log. So uv.log file will contain the exact Python package versions which will be used by the dependencies mentioned in the pyproject.toml file. So it is really important while sharing your project and running it in another computer that the package version should be exactly same, otherwise the code might not perform as expected in another computer, right? So uv.log file ensures that it shows the exact Python package versions, dependencies, etc., and everything will be written in the uv.log file. You don't need to worry about that. You just need to write uv commands, and uv will take care about the Python versions, dependencies, etc., using the uv.log file. So you don't need to edit the uv.log file. Alright, we've added pandas and request modules, right? Now if I want to remove request module from my Python project, I can just write uv remove requests. Now UV has removed request module from the virtual environment and every file, and it has also updated the pyproject.toml file. So this way, using UV add and UV remove, you can add or remove modules from your UV Python project. Suppose you have a virtual environment and it's already set up in your machine, and now you want to convert that virtual environment to use UV. You can activate the virtual environment and do pip freeze requirements.txt to create a requirements.txt file, and then use the requirement.txt file to add the dependencies to your toml file using uv add -r requirements.txt. So instead of adding requirements one by one manually, if you have a requirements.txt file, you can even add Python packages using uv add -r requirements.txt. So this command is really useful if you want to migrate your Python project from existing virtual environment to UV. Alright, we have initialized the project, we have added our dependencies, and suppose we have written our code. Now we need to run the project, right? So instead of using python main.py or python server.py, you can even say uv run main.py. So using the uv run command, you can run your Python project. So I got my project set up, I've written my Python code. Now let's write uv run main.py, and you're getting hello from uv demo. So if you write uv run main.py, automatically uv will initialize the virtual environment and use that virtual environment to run your Python project. You don't need to worry about virtual environments, packages, etc. You just write a correct toml file and write uv run the file name. Automatically uv will create the virtual environments, install packages, install Python version, everything, and run your project in the desired manner. Instead of using uv add or uv remove commands, you can even modify the pyproject.toml file directly to mention your dependencies. This is also a way of mentioning your dependencies. Instead of command line, you can just modify the pyproject.toml file. Although I use uv add, uv remove commands, you can even use this way to mention your dependencies. But after modifying your pyproject.toml file, make sure that you run the uv sync command, because it will update the packages and the uv.log file, so that when you share the project with others, the same virtual environment will be created. So if you change your pyproject.toml file manually, just make sure that you run the uv sync command. Now UV also has this awesome feature where you can upgrade your Python packages. Just run the command uv log --upgrade, and UV will upgrade your packages to the latest version possible. What I meant by latest version possible is, if you mention your dependency something like pandas greater than or equal to 2.3.1, if you run this uv log upgrade command, UV will search for the latest pandas version and replace it with the existing one. But if your dependency is really strict, like if you say pandas equal to 2.3.1, UV can't do anything because you already mentioned a particular version for your pandas. So if your dependency is mentioned in a constrained way, like pandas greater than 2.2.9 and less than 2.3.1, UV will see the maximum package it can upgrade to, and it will upgrade the environment and the log file. Well, to demonstrate UV log upgrade, let's try to downgrade our pandas version. I will make it pandas 2.3.0, save this, and I will write is UV sync. Now let's write UV log --upgrade. UV will upgrade the pandas package and upgrade the UV log file. So the pandas version is 2.3.1. So that's how you upgrade your Python packages very easily using UV. By the way, the whole content of this video is present in this blog post. I've given you the commands, examples, so that you can copy paste and practice it in your own environment. I've also given you the links to the official documentation, and you can do further reading in this documentation site. So that's it about using UV for Python project management. Let's see what we have covered. We have covered how to install UV, how to update UV, how to initialize a new Python project in a folder using UV, and how to manage packages in a Python project using UV, how to run a Python project using UV, how to change the Python packages from the toml file, how to upgrade Python packages using UV. Before UV, people used pip and venv to manage Python packages and virtual environments. I've already made videos on those, and I will leave the link of these videos in the description if you want to know about pip and virtual environments in Python. However, with UV, it's not required, but it's good to know about pip and venv. So that's it for this video, guys. Please ask questions or post your valuable feedback in the comment section. Hope you like this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Peace.